Well, in this video, I will introduce you to Selenium WebDriver. So if you want to define Selenium WebDriver in one line, I would say Selenium WebDriver is a browser automation tool and it comes as API. So if you see Selenium, when you say you're getting Selenium into your project, basically you are using a set of APIs, application programming interfaces, that the Selenium projects provide you. So normally in the case of Java, it would be a Java jar file which you can import into your project and use. So it comes as an API that you can use in your code. And then basically Selenium automate web browsers that have Selenium server implementations created by browser vendors. So Selenium is basically two sides: the side where you code and give instructions, and the other side which exists inside the browser, or like in the browser side, which takes your request and process it and sends you the response back. So that server side is implemented by the browser vendors, and to automate a browser, that browser should have an implementation of the Selenium server done by the browser vendors, and it should adhere to WebDriver W3C standard. Then only you can automate it with Selenium. And unfortunately, most of the browsers, the famous and most commonly used browsers, have the implementation for Selenium WebDriver. And as I said, the browser vendor should adhere to the W3 standards. We'll see more about this once we start coding and like get some introduction into basic Selenium code. Okay, and basically as a QA engineer, I want to write tests for my web application. First of all, I will write manual scripted test cases. Then once I write these test cases, I will have to test it by opening that web application, the URL of the application in a browser, and interact with that application open inside a browser like Chrome or Firefox or Safari, and play with it as an end user would play with it. For example, if a banking application, I will have to see I will have to open the banking application in my web browser and interact with the banking application as a normal user of that banking application would do, and see whether everything is working fine, right? Together with that, I'll also need an end-to-end automation tool. Lets me automate some of those big regression test cases that I will have to do like 1,000 times, maybe in the life cycle, or maybe like millions of times in the life cycle of that application. So every time it gets released to production, you'll have to run some regression test case, right? So for those kind of scenarios, you need an automation tool that lets you automate the web applications journeys, user journeys end to end. And Selenium is one of the best available open source tools to do that task. And another important thing about Selenium is it has a very strong community support. So if you have some issues which is not already answered in Stack Overflow or some of the Google forums, you can just go to the Stack Overflow or the Selenium Google user forum and just ask your question, and people will respond to you, either the developers of Selenium or the community who is already using it. They will answer your question, and most probably your questions would be already answered. You just have to search correctly and get your result. That's a good thing about this some open source project with a wide community out there. And another important thing about Selenium is that it is time tested. So it has been there for so many years. From I started using Selenium from 2008, so like how many years it's been, and it has gone through so many criticisms, so many competitions with other commercial tools. So it's time tested and very strong and evolved to the condition it is right now over the years. So that is a very strong tool over there for you.